His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Plateau State, Professor Sonny Jojen, honorable members of the Executive Council who are here, the Chief of Staff, other members of the Cabinet who are here, my very good friend and very good brother, a lover of peace in Nigeria and particularly Plateau State, Chief Fani-Kayode and his entourage, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me welcome you. I won't say welcome you, but let me thank you for what you are doing, especially for the North. The last time you intervened was when there was very serious crisis of movement of food, of transfer of food from here to the south and then blockage. You intervened, and instantly the matter was rectified. Again, we had a challenge in Oyo, like you said. Before we even got to Oyo, we were already settling the dispute. When it happened to Plateau, without even coming to this place, I knew what you did. You called me and you told me that you want to also come and help. Before you even came yesterday, you were already helping, calling people and asking them to reconcile, and not for people to go for a price of attack. I'm very much aware of that. Today, you took time again to come to Plateau State. On behalf of the good people of Plateau State, I will say, well, we owe you a lot of gratitude. Thank you for doing this. And you have said it all. I don't need to add anything. That's what we've been preaching in this state. Because no matter the differences, no matter the difficulties in religion, diversity, we have 63 ethnic nationalities in Plateau State. So if we start saying we are talking on the basis of ethnicity, which tribes are we fighting? Are we fighting the 63 ethnic groups in the state? You cannot pick one and you start fighting. The others will group against you. And that's why we've been preaching that instead of fighting each other on the basis of ethnicity, we must come together. If there's an external enemy, we challenge the external enemy. The same thing on religion. Here we have two dominant religions. We have Christians and we have Muslims. If you talk about people who have established this state, you will see Muslims and you see Christians. If you talk about people who have developed Plateau State, you will see different tribes of Nigeria. At one time here, we had somebody from Delta who was in our House of Representatives. He was even chief whip in the House of Representatives. In this state, we had somebody who won an election, an Igbo man who won an election to represent us in the House of Representatives. The only thing challenge was that they didn't go. That was during the Abacha regime. An Igbo man won an election. We had a lot of people from this state who came here, made name, and not only in Nigeria and all over the world. If you talk about musicians, if you talk about the True Face, you talk about everybody, they came from Plateau State. They are not indigenous of Plateau, but they came from here. All of them were born and bred here. If you talk about the footballers, I can't even mention them. Ahmed Musa, Mikel Obi, all of them. Mikel Obi, his parents are still here. They are here. Their house is here. Just behind me, they are my neighbors. The father is here and the mother. All of them. He's an Igbo man. He came from Plateau. He didn't deny it. He said, I was born in Plateau. I started playing football in Plateau. Plateau State sold me outside. And so Plateau is my home. His father is here. His mother is here. They have built a very big house for them here. He cannot build that house in Imo, where he came from. So a lot of them, those who made fame. If you talk about Odegwami was born here. He went to school here. Today, you can count them. P-Square, that's musicians now. If you move to the business community, The Tony Olumelu grew up in Jos here. His father was a miner. Yes, his father was a miner. He didn't hide that. And everywhere he will tell you that I am from Plateau State. First, I was in Plateau State. I grew up in Plateau State. And today I met them, my father died in Plateau State. This is the kind of culture that will tell you, I can continue to name them. So for Plateau is a place where even if you are not comfortable with your state, you will run here and will give you good reception. And the political environment, you remember, your great father of great memory. Anytime from history that political parties were going to do conventions and they wanted the final convention, Jos was always the destination for all the parties. I remember even those of us who started, from Abiola, from Obasanjo, from everybody. I had a time to even say that if people want peace in Nigeria, all the political parties should start moving back to Jos to pick their presidential candidate. To pick their presidential candidate. You will have democratic peace in Nigeria. I told Mr. President that. I said, let's go back to the old thing. Because there must be a secret. When the Unity Party, when NPP, when SDP, everywhere was choosing Jos. It was not from anything, it is divine. Let us go back to that spirit and choose our presidential candidates from Jos. It will be divine and we will have peace in Nigeria. So I want to thank you very much for coming. I am sure that you have spoken today. A lot of the youth admire you. The youth will listen to it and this message will go down. We speak especially to the youth because it appears the youth of today, they don't understand. This use of social media, it should be managed very well. Because when you manage social media, you are supposed to manage it for your future, not manage it to destroy your country. If you destroy your country, there will be no future for you. So let's use this opportunity, like you heard him say, from every experience he has been in it. And he's calling for calm. He's calling for peace. He's calling for reconciliation. That is the word that we must do if we want to live in this country. Not a blame game. Because if we have to do blame, then we must blame ourselves for not doing the right thing. My brother, Honorable Minister, I remain very grateful again. I thank you for coming. And as you finish, you get back. God will continue to guide you back to your destination safely. God bless Nigeria. God bless Plateau State. Thank you.
They say that a friend in need is a friend indeed. And I think our brother, our leader, one of the exalted horns from the southwest, is here to show us that he's a friend indeed. And that is in the person of Chief Fani-Kayode, the Sadoki of Shinkafi. I think he so much loved this title. It's a sign that he is part of us here, he is part of the North. And you are here to see the chairman of the Governors Forum, which is very, very excellent in that regard.
Your Excellency, my dear friend and brother, Governor Simon Lalong, the Deputy Governor, members of the Cabinet, members of State House, the Press Corps, and every single person seated here under the sound of my voice. May I just start by saying, on behalf of my delegation and myself, that it really is an honor and a privilege for me to be here today. I would have come sooner had it not been for the fact that, as His Excellency knows, I've been moving around quite a lot to see a number of his colleagues building bridges in this country, trying to foster peace and for harmony between our various peoples. But when I heard about what happened here I had to come here immediately. The last few days for all of us in this country have been very traumatic because of what had happened in Plateau State. And I have come here to come and stand in solidarity with His Excellency and the good people of this state, to commiserate with them for those that were lost, and to also stand shoulder to shoulder with them against those that I would consider to be those that want to destabilize our country and cause us to fight one another. It is very, very important at this point in our history for us to stand together as one in this country. And Governor Lalong has preached this over and over again by his words and by his example, and shown enormous sensitivity to everybody, regardless of your faith, regardless of your tribe, regardless of where you come from. And I believe that's the way forward. It takes great strength to do that. And I would urge everybody in this state and indeed the country to emulate this, to reach out to everybody, to work with everybody, to try and forgive, to try and operate in love and understanding. Because that's the only way we can ensure that our country does not fall apart into a second civil war. This is something we must avoid at all costs. The path of peace is the only path, as far as I'm concerned, regardless of the hurts that we have all suffered over the years. I would like to add this, Your Excellency, if I may, that I have done a lot of research about what's going on in our country over the last few years. For some time, many of us were misled into thinking that problems are always coming from another side. And we point fingers at one another, accusing one another of all kinds of atrocities. Well, to a certain extent, it may have been true in the past. But what is happening today, and I have to say this without any fear of contradiction, is that there is an enormous influence from outside our shores. People are coming in through our international borders and are committing atrocities against our local people. And when they wield their weapons, they do not ask whether you are a Christian or a Muslim. They do not ask whether you're a Fulani, Hausa, Berom, Yoruba, or Igbo. They do not ask whether you're APC or PDP. All they're interested in is killing, maiming, stealing, and destroying. Because they're not from here. They're not part of us. What we must not do is allow these foreigners to divide us amongst ourselves. We must not fall into the trap of saying, because they come from outside of a particular extraction, that means those that are here, that is the local Fulanis or the local Hausas or the local Beroms or whoever it is, are the target and are the enemy. This must not happen, because we are one in this country. We are Nigerians before we are Fulani, Hausa, Yoruba, Berom, Igbo, anything else. And that is a reality that we must appreciate. We must stand together against this foreign threat. We must stand together and protect one another. And I see signs of this more and more as I move around. I've seen it in Zamfara State, I've seen it, all over, all the states I've been, where people are actually coming together more and more. In the Southwest, for example, if I may, Your Excellency, in Oyo State, where we had the Shasha killings recently, it was a terrible thing. I was there. And what occurred to me at that time was that if I had stepped out into the streets with some of my security team, who happened to be from the north, I mean, I've lived in the north since 2001, so I count myself as part and parcel of the north, but I was in Ibadan. If I had stepped out in the streets at that time with some members of my security team, many of whom are from the core north and they're Muslims, they may well have been pulled out of the vehicle before my very eyes and killed, because that's what was happening. And yet they're Nigerians. We must ensure that this sort of thing stops. We must try our best to forgive one another and operate in love. And yes, there have been atrocities committed on both sides in the past. Nobody wants to go back to that. Nobody wants to cite that now. But this is a time for us to come together and recognize the fact that the enemy is not within ourselves. The enemy is not within Plateau State. The enemy is not within Nigeria. The enemy are coming in from foreign borders, from foreign countries, claiming to be Nigerians in many cases, but in many cases not even pretending, speaking Arabic, speaking Berber language, speaking French, and committing these atrocities. We must understand that they are not part of us. That is not our culture, that is not our way. We must resist the temptation of taking up arms against one another, and we must encourage those that have shown restraint and moderation, like Governor Lalong and others, to ensure that we do not turn against one another. And I consider you to be an example of everything that is right in terms of tolerance, in terms of understanding of a very complicated situation that we have in Nigeria. Let me end with this, Your Excellency. The easiest thing is for us to begin to point fingers and stir people up and call people to arms and say we must do this, we must do that, speaking out of a position of anger and hurt. That's the easiest thing. And that is not the courageous way. The courageous way, like Gandhi said, if you lose a child as a Christian taken by somebody else and that child is killed, like Gandhi said, the easiest way is to adopt a Muslim child and show him or her the love you have shown your own. That's the difficult path, but that's the right path. We continue to show each other love, we continue to forgive, we continue to understand, and we resolve to live together as one and unite against those that come from foreign lands, foreign territories outside our borders to come and kill us all. They're after us all. Make no mistake about that. And by God's grace, they will never push us into a civil war. Amen. Those bridges will never be built, will never be broken. Amen. And those that seek our hurt, that wish to push us in that direction, shall not have their way in Jesus' name. Amen. I pray this, and I pray for the government. I pray for the deputy governor, I pray for the entire state, the cabinet, the government, the people of this great state. I mean, Plateau State is the heart of our country. The great men of the past, great men like John Shagai, if I may mention a few, men like Baba Jang, men like the great Joshua Dari, who was my personal friend, so many of them in the past that have done so much for this country, the famous old Langtang Mafia, Dom Kabali, and all the generals, and Dogon Yaro, who recently passed, and so on and so forth. This is the greatness and the strength of Plateau, and the greatness and the strength of our nation, the pride of our nation. And I believe and I trust God that the greatness of Plateau, the glory of Plateau State, will once again be restored. And I pray for you all. You are our pride and our strength, and I'm very proud of you. May God be with each and every one of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.